I'm Lindy Wheaton. Just a short video today. I wanted to finish up what I was doing in class with my students today. So we were talking about painting spring and how there's such an abundance of life and a riotous amount of colour and flowering shrubs and trees in the landscape that it's quite hard to work out what to actually focus on. So I was suggesting they needed to plan and simplify those spring landscapes to try and get a more coherent single idea into their paintings. So what we started off with was looking at the photo, our reference photos. I'll just bring that forward for you so you can see it quite well. So you can see in here we've got so much going on that it's very hard to concentrate on one aspect of it. So I've suggested simplifying it down. I'm using those good old thumbnails. So what we started off with was looking at the photo, our reference photos. I'll just bring that forward for you so you can see it quite well. So you can see in here we've got so much going on that it's very hard to concentrate on one aspect of it. So I've suggested simplifying it down. I'm using those good old thumbnails. So here I started off doing it in a normal landscape, but I quite liked chopping it off here and making it into a square. And you can see I followed that up with just a block in, and I've washed it in using the isopropyl alcohol, hard pastels and a brush to get the dark colours over this coloured paper. I wanted the darks for all the shadows, but I wanted the sky to be nice and lively, so I chose this paper, which I rarely use, and used a very dark wash in. And I'm going to show you how I did that in just a moment. And then I started layering in with the pastels here. So I simplified it down so that I was focusing on this tree, these parts of orangey colours here, little bits of pink to balance it off, and then a pathway in, which I've exaggerated there, along with these little grey areas there. Actually, let's just go straight in with the wash. So what I use is the isopropyl alcohol in a little container and a brush. Not your really good brush because the gritty pastel paper will wreck it. And then I just use some hard pastels. These are Rembrandts, and I'm just going to block in that dark mass in there. And I'm looking at the value map I did here rather than here. So this one is just a little section up through here of the painting. So I'm just going to block in those dark masses. Bring it down about here. I'm going to have a bit of dark mass there and then mass it up beside the path there. So basically it becomes this sort of leading here, leading there, into this dark mass area here, going up into the sky. And I'm just going to wash that in now using the brush. Chosen quite a dark colour because I want quite a lot of shadow in there. I can run up some tiny little branches of that tree. That one was a bit too just to remind you what I'm doing here. There's lots of little I could use a much finer brush and do it much finer. I'm going to keep all that massing that in. So now it's just about a little bit light leading into this dark mass of wildflowers here. Back to this one, then I just take my pastels, and because I've done a fair amount of underpainting there with the harder pastels, I'm going to go straight in with my softer pastels, and that's just the Unison pastels. I like them, I like the little barrel shape. I could keep referring back to this, but I might not refer that much to it. So I'm going to go in with some greens there, and some darker greens to set those greens of that foliage there. I'm going to go painting two at the same time, isn't that? That's economical. And I'm using that same green to set it in up here in this one. maybe a little bit of green out through there as a foil for some of these other. And because I said let's simplify it, I'm just keeping it quite soft back here in the background, not much detail. Run a bit of that through there at the base of that nice orangey bush, a little bit in through there. This is going to be quite mauvey round here, but I'll let a little bit of green come through from another plant, a little bit of green coming up through there. So I'm setting in the major shapes there. This is quite dark through there and shadowy, so I'm just using some dark colours here. And all I'm doing is that little rotating kind of movement. I'm pulling that all down through here as well. I'm going to do lights over the top of it for these grey shrubs, but I just want to get some quite solid darks in there. And that's just following my value map that I'd set up over there and adjusting it slightly because I've now made that quite dark, but I'll be going over it again with lights. Just darken off the corners a little bit so I'm not tempted to go out of it. I think I'll bring that one out a little bit there. Because right now what I'm doing is just adjusting the overall design a little bit. Start going with some lighter colours. I've got all this area here which is quite light. I'm just using a blue to kind of suggest the area where I'm going to concentrate on that. It's going to be quite a lot lighter in there. And over here I've got some mauvey kind of pinky flowers. And I'm just suggesting, you can see I'm not giving any detail at this stage, it's just suggestions of these sort of colours that I'm finding in the landscape there. That's quite pink. Spring can have some quite muted colours in it and then just a pops of brighter colour. So I'm not getting carried away with putting really bright colours in there. I'm remembering the spring colours. In here, I'm going back to the unisons again, and they're the brighter pops of colour I want. I'm going to put in some yellows in this bush back here so that they stand out a bit. They're not quite that yellow in reality. I'll put in a little bit yellower brighter than they are, and then I'll knock them back a bit. Then the pinks up there need a little top up of pink, and I'm going for this pink, and this is where I punch the colour up a little bit. And again, I'm just suggesting the flowers. What I call my jabby jab technique, which is just jabbing onto the paper, and a jabby kind of motion to suggest some flowers back there. These ones are pinker flowers up here, and I'm going to just, if I want some bigger ones. The thing I want to avoid is that sharp edge, so I'm just trying to move the pastel around so I don't get quite so sharp, I get more rounded flower. I like the way that's coming out from there. So it's just using some various orangey, yellowy kind of colours and making some more linear marks there because they're linear kind of new growth yellow. Some twiglet things coming out of there. So do this with a square Conte stick or a Prismacolor new pastel. I just happen to have my Derwents, my Rembrandts, and a nice sharp edge from where I've snapped one in. And some of the branches going up there. I won't do it in black, it's quite dark. I'm using a brown kind of colour. And just see how I'm squiggling my hand as I go to get the curves and feeling of the branches as they come up, overlap each other. Occasionally I look back here and see, just to remind me of the actual character of that kind of tree. It has lots of little ones coming off it. So I'm just putting some of those little ones in there now. And not really looking back at the photo other than that initial one where it was to check on how the tree actually grows and how the little sub-branches come off, the branches come off, and there's lots of them coming up there. So that's giving me the nice crisp edges against the sky there. And I put that sky in by just running a little bit of a pale blue and then a pinky kind of colour in together there. And you can see how those branches really add some character to the painting and some focus back there, which is where I want to focus. I'm going to now go in and put some of this area in, and they're very bleached, kind of dry, twiggy things. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just wriggling them around with a very rolling that pastel with a very organic rolly sort of movement of my hand. You've all seen me prep and underpaint things before, but if you go there, if you click on that, it'll take you through to underpainting, so you can see how to do the underpainting with the alcohol wash. I've done a bigger demonstration than that. Just click on that one and that will show you where the video where I talk about choosing your paper colour. Even though I wanted this to be lighter, I then washed in more. You can see it's light through there on my little thumbnail value study, but I put in the dark under wash so that all the shadows would come through when I rolled over the lighter colours, because it's hard to get the shadows in after you put that in. I might take a little bit back up into there too, if you come up into there. What to do down here is just pump up some of the shadowy bits of purple in there. So that's the shadowy bit of there, and I want to give it a little bit of a few greens in amongst that as well. So put some greens in there as well. I'm finding that slightly unbalanced over there. It's very dark there and there's not enough shadow on there, so I'm just going to pump up those shadow areas down in here a bit more and around the base of that tree, shrub there. I find that already is much better. And then I'll go back in and put some of those mauvey colours in. And this time I use a couple of different mauves and just do a jabby bit. So that's a darker mauve and then a very light one. Just some bits of light coming on it. Just add a bit of drag it a bit across those shadowed areas. Add a few little bits of sticky things to that as well, and I'll go in with a brown or a greeny grey and a lighter grey, two sort of grey colours to put in a few sticks coming across there. Little bits of irregularities in the undergrowth there. Just so the path is a bit more natural, and I'm going to finish it off with a few rushes and reeds or like grasses coming up through there and overlapping the path. Might give that a couple there too. Maybe a few even up in there, just to get it sort of moving around. This area here, I'm just going to put a few of those up, sort of like that, into that area, because I didn't quite like how that was. Just needed something else. So just add in a few pinks there. That tree with the little bit more yellows there. So I'm just going to have a little bit of an overlay of this tree and this bush here, just to give it a little bit more. So that's little bits where the sun's hitting it. And it's just those little bits that will make a difference to your painting. Now I would think about that for a bit and see if I needed to do anything else. But just initially I'm quite happy with it, that it's a little bit more simplified spring scene of this, focusing on the yellow, which is what I wanted to do. Here, I started the same kind of thing, and this was just to show you the whole process. So I've got that little pathy kind of area coming in there, so I'm just adding in some lights going across there. Wanting to keep this very simple. I might pull some of that shadow back that way, so that the path's going maybe a bit more round that way. And then I'm going to go in and build up the sky there, which is just going to be a nice pale blue, really quite pale. Pulling it down to the top. Now I'm going to pull in some more warm colour there at the bottom of the sky, which is a pinky kind of. Just got to be careful I don't contaminate it with that green. So I've just pulled in the sky there. Thinking about this, I'm going to pull up again using these squiggly kind of motions. They're very fine, these, and it's that squiggly kind of look I want, and a whole lot of little ones coming off. Thicken it up a little bit at the base there, and try and get a good design where it's coming and spreading around, and most of it's going to be around here. So and just pull them down, and it will pick up some of the tree trunks underneath it. But that's not such a bad thing, because it just gives you, changes the yellow slightly and makes them a few different kind of tints of yellow coming into it, just from it mixing with the yellow, the darker browns underneath. So now I'm just adding a few different bits of yellow. So we've got some different areas in there, and I actually love these trees. I saw them in Western Australia. I don't know what they're called, but they're I love the yellow against the more deserty colours. It's springtime in the desert. I'm going to pull in some more of that green I had before, some lighter bits of it. Bringing out my atmospheric box again and pulling in some of these greens. I'm going to set up a bit of that green around here as well. And I'm just pulling it down. I'm going to add some more of it there. It's not there so much in the reference, but I'm changing the reference slightly now. I just want the idea of it. And this one's quite spiky, so again I'm just spiking them in, using the hard edge around the edge of that mass, spiking some in there. And using a couple of different values of that. Just knocking back the brightness a little bit. To weave in some of those lighter grey sort of ones now in here. That's maybe with this one. So just rolling it around there to get that sense of those really tangled up, dried, sticky things. Might add some in the front here too. I might add in some of that mauvey kind of plant back here too. A low growing one though, not like the other ones. That's just going to grow low, so around there. Maybe a suggestion of it back here. This will work quite well against the yellows. It's a little bit too... Take some browner colour and just darken up the face of that a little bit. It's a little too much for me. That's better. It's knocked it back slightly. I like it better. I need to put in at the base of these mauvey ones something a bit darker, with the shadow there. That's simplifying it right down. I think the path needs a little bit of an attack there, so I'm going to put in some sort of movement around in the path there. To make the path a bit more interesting. And it goes back in behind those ones. I want to keep it horizontal. And once I've done that, I just need to clean up some of the edges there where I've messed them up by going back and attacking the path. Just keep those in. That might stay fairly not a lot going on there. I just added some different values, but not really do much more to it than that. So that's just a quick little study looking at the two main colours that I liked in this, which were these orangey colours and that yellow that treat the background, and just take it right into there. I can finish off by putting a couple of little bits of lighter sticky bits in there, maybe a couple coming out there. And maybe I can add another sort of sticky thing going up there just to help balance off all the ones going across from there. Maybe a couple of little sticks on the path as well. Okay. So there we have it, two different versions from the same reference photo that was very, very busy, and I needed to simplify it down. So I put in the washes, I chose a light coloured background so that I could then put in dark value washes, and then the light sky would still work well on the paper. And then I just simplified it down to some masses of colours with a little bit of texture added from just different uses of the edge or the side of the pastel. I hope you enjoyed that quick lesson. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.